Hi, everybody. I'm Brant Fowler, one of the co-founders and co-hosts of the Zone 4 podcast. I'm actually the only original co-host that still remains with the show on a weekly basis. I originally started the show with Carrie Kelly, Chuck Kennedy, Jason Barrick Lewis. Long story short, now it's just me, and two of those guys are reserves, and the other guy, Jason, is doing other things. I am a professional comic book letterer, flatterer. Sometimes I edit and write. I also co-own comicrelated.com, which is a comic news website. We do podcasts, web comics, articles, columns, reviews, all kinds of stuff. Anything, if it's comic related, you'll find it there is our motto. And we're constantly evolving what we do on the site. Right now we're gearing more towards original content, original articles and that kind of thing. Aside from that, I've been reading comics since I was a kid. 6 or 7, I think, is when I first read a comic. I've been collecting regularly since I was 13, when my friend introduced me to my first comic shop. Outside of comics, I like all the multimedia, pop culture stuff. My music tastes are varied. I'm very eclectic. I like movies, video games, board games. I like going out and having fun, hanging out with people. I love my family. What more do you need to know? I love God. So, and that's a little something I don't normally talk about a lot online. So, that's just some of the things that make me who I am. The wild, crazy, zany guy who is quiet until you really get to know me, and then you can't shut me up, and you get annoyed with me. So that's me. Let's see. Why did I start Zone 4? What was the reason I wanted to start a podcast? Basically, at the time, Carrie, Chuck, Jason, and I were friends through our blogs. We each had blogs on Blogger or blogspot.com, and we didn't ever get a chance to talk in person. And we were like, well, we've heard about these things called podcasts. Why don't we get together and start a podcast? And, that way we can talk about comics and catch up with each other's lives and everything on a regular basis. And we were all game for it. None of us knew how to start a podcast, though. And that's where Chuck Moore and Comic Related originally came in. Chuck had been doing a podcast for about a year before that, maybe 2 years. And I went to him for advice and tips and everything. And I remember when I took him the agenda that I had planned out for a weekly episode of Zone 4, he was like, "You're never going to fit this in an hour and a half. This is like a 3 or 4 hour show." And so there was condensing, and I had a lot to learn. But that's why I started the podcast originally, just to talk to friends about comics and life in general. And that's kind of how it's remained. What you don't know about Zone 4 is that there is like a 30-minute pre-show and sometimes an hour, 2 hour long post-show, because we're just catching up with each other. Not so much now with our busy schedules. Gordon has got a lot more work now. Ron's always busy with something with Airship. 27 are his own comic projects, and John has other responsibilities as well as I do. So we don't get to chat as much anymore, but there have been many times where we stayed on the phone for 4 hours for an hour podcast. I was not on a previous podcast before Zone 4 as a regular co-host or anything like that, but I did do a few guest spots. I think the first podcast I was ever on, I was interviewed by Chuck Moore on the Related Recap for Comic Related, promoting my book, Wannabes. Myself and Scott Simmons, the artist at the time, went to Comics to Games, a comic shop up in Florence, Kentucky, and recorded an interview with Chuck in person. And so that was my first podcast experience, and I remember being really nervous, and I talked 10 million miles an hour just to get everything out, but it was a lot of fun. And I think I did 1 or 2 other interviews after that about wannabes. I know I did Catch the Craze, that's DA, Catch the Craze podcast at one point in time as well. And that was just kind of my introduction to podcasts. Zone 4 to me has, as a concept, has been an evolving concept. It has an evolving meaning through the years. The original reason for the name Zone 4 is because at the time, all 4 of the original co-hosts were in different time zones. I was in Kentucky in Eastern Time. Chuck Kennedy was in Chicago on Central Time. Jason was in Australia, whatever time zone that is, and Carrie was somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico, which was a different time zone too at the time, even though he lived in Texas. So yeah, that was the whole reason Zone 4, because we were from 4 time zones. And there was 4 of us, and it was a roundtable discussion, and it just kind of fit and went together. And Zone 4 sounded like something radio-ish, so that's what we went with. Over time, I think the concept of Zone 4 has changed to be all-encompassing of, it's just this name, this brand that means, hey, we're talking about comics, TV, movie, pop culture, novels, whatever, genre culture. And, it's been, like I said, it's been a way for me to connect with people that I don't get to see or talk to on a normally basis regularly. And that's kind of the most important aspect of Zone 4 to me. It's friends getting together and just having a good time. And that's what Zone 4 really means to me, and that's what we try to exude through the broadcast. We try to show that we are friends and we are having fun and we're talking about stuff that interests us and sharing those interests with each other and with you. And that's why I think it's special that way, because it's not, we didn't put it together to do a show. It was just like, hey, we're going to be getting together to talk about comics anyway. Why not record it and share it with the world? And that's how Zone 4 has remained since day one. And that's why I think it's special and unique and something, all of its own. One of my favorite moments or episodes on Zone 4, honestly, I've had many. There was an episode, it's kind of my least favorite episode, but it's a great moment because how crazy it was. There was an episode early on where we tended to go off into tangents that had nothing to do with the topics anyway. But there was one where we went off talking about Hamburger University for like an hour. And it was just this crazy, off-the-cuff discussion. It was back when Carrie and Chuck were part of the podcast. And it was just insane. And I think moments like that throughout the life of Zone 4, when we've gone completely off topic, have been really good. There was also a really serious discussion we had about creator rights and that kind of thing. That was a really good moment. The last episode that Dirk Manning was on was a really fun one. He was talking about his book, and it was just this nice, fluid conversation. I think those are the moments that I really love and embrace, is the ones that we just go completely off script and do something fun. And the skits have always been a fun thing for me too. I know some people complain about them, but we love doing them. And hey, for the 300th, spoiler alert, we're doing one. It's a short one to kick off the episode, but we are doing a skit. So get used to them because they ain't going nowhere. Some of my favorite guests on the show, I would have to say Spaced from Nerd Girls. Nerd Girls was a podcast that was on comic related. They ended. A couple of them got married. One of them had a baby, and they've gone off and done other things. But we don't have a lot of women on the podcast. But I don't know why. It just never works out. We've had a few, but when Space came on, she and I seemed to have similar tastes in our reading, and we had a really deep conversation about certain titles and stuff, and it was a really good conversation, and it was a really pleasant experience. I mean, she had podcast experience, and she came on with us, and it was a real fun inter exchange of that's not even a word, inter exchange. I'm making up words now on this, but it was a fun exchange between the 4 of us talking about comics, and it was really cool, and I had a blast with her. Dirk Manning, like I said, has always been a fun guest to have on the show. He's been on the show several times. Bill Gladman he's a friend of mine that I hardly ever get to talk to, but I love having him on. Anytime Chuck Moore is on with us, it's fun because Chuck, John, and I are just in real life outside of the podcast. We're partners, we're best friends, we're brothers from another mother, and it's just it's a fun time when you get us on. I'm trying to think if there's any other huge guest or any other guests that stand out to me. I mean, I've been happy with every guest that we've had. We've had a blast with everybody from Dan Sin to Mike Barron to Mike Luomo when he's on. We've had several other guests that are slipping my mind right now. We've had Chris Roberson was on the show. He was a great guest to have on the show. Eric Radcliffe's dropped by a few times. Chris Ventura is always zany and fun, of course. It's always loved having him on the show as well. I've already mentioned about how Zone 4 has evolved or changed in my eyes over the course of the entire time since episode 200, which is when we did our big live show, I believe, with Chris was on there and Spider-Man and everything. I'd like to think that our show has gotten more focused. Up to that point, we were very haphazard, very let's go in and just talk. And I think we've planned things out. We've gotten a lot of interesting topics. From at episode 250, we made the choice to kind of mix up the cast and go in a different direction. And I think we added the Walking Dead stuff between 200 and now. So I think we've grown the show, and it's kind of gradually changed in positive ways. And going forward from 300, which I'll talk about in a minute, I think you're going to see some more of that as we try some other things. From 200 on, we tried some things worked, some things stuck, some things didn't, and some things we're going to change. So it's going to be a ride like it always is. The only things that I could think of that I would go back and change from Zone 4, there are certain episodes where I didn't have time to put them together properly, and they weren't our best episodes. The little things like that, the random episode here and there. The one thing I would change, I think I would change the stress and pressure I put on myself with the weekly streak. We're approaching 300. We've gone 300 straight weeks. Despite the 1 week where it was a blip and it didn't go up on Friday, it was recorded. So it did go up. It was just my power went out and I could not upload it. It was crushing my soul because we had gone so far without that. But it's a lot of pressure to keep up to that, and it forced a little burnout, and it forced a little it forced that feeling of, I have to get this done, and it became more of a chore at times. And I would go back and change that and just abolish that whole thing. As proud as I am of that streak and of our record of staying 300 weeks straight, it's been a lot of pressure at times. Not always, but at times it would get to me. Zone 4, for me, over the years, has been this outlet. It's been this outlet for me to talk about comics. And, there were times when I wasn't around a lot of people that were into comics. I wasn't a part of a YouTube channel or community. And I didn't have a local comic shop close enough to go to on a weekly basis. And I needed that interaction. I needed to talk about this kind of stuff. And I think that's what Zone 4 has done for me over the years. It's allowed me that opportunity to talk about things and keep in touch with friends and keep in touch with the comics community. And it's kind of strengthened my love for comics in that way. My cast members over the years, both the reserves and the full-time cast members, we've had our ups and downs. There's been some issues between some of us, but overall we are friends through and through. I can't think of one single cast member in the past that I'm not friends with, that I don't talk to at least occasionally. And there's only one former cast member that has not been on the show recently. So I think all of us bring something unique to the show. John has this incredible wit. He has this humor all of his own. And he is very intelligent, even though he's very self-deprecating in his humor, but he's very intelligent. He has several degrees, and he's very knowledgeable about a lot of things, and he brings that. Gordon has this knowledge of things that I just don't, like all the Doctor Who knowledge and some pulp knowledge and other things. I just don't have any. It's not that I don't have interest, I just never sought those things out, and he brings something different to the table with that. Ron has this wealth of knowledge going back years, decades beyond. He's got experience and knowledge of all these comic things and pulp and other other things that I didn't live through that he lived through, that he brings to the show, these experiences that none of us can compare to. He is a little bit older than us, so he lived through certain different things, and at times through the show he's brought these things up, and it's really enlightening to discuss that with a person from his generation. Chuck Kennedy. Chuck Kennedy is a character. I'm telling you, he is bold, he is opinionated, and he never holds back. And I love that about him. I love that when he gets on the show, it's just all out, go full force. And I got to tell you guys, there's a special episode coming up of Zone 4 that is for mature listeners that Chuck Kennedy kind of shepherded. So it's going to be an interesting show. But he always brings something. He goes off the wall, and you never expect what he's going to say, but it's always good. And he's also intelligent and knowledgeable, and he's very professional. Carrie Kelly, again, very opinionated, and he really doesn't hold any punches. He doesn't care if anybody likes his opinion or not. Plus, he's just this fun, good old boy, and I love him to death. I've worked with him for years before we even met Chuck Kennedy and Jason, and before we ever thought of starting a podcast, and we go way back, and we're good friends. Michael Luoma, again, he's got that radio experience. He brings that professional edge to the show. He's got this knowledge of cosmic marvel that blows my mind, and he's just this calm, very serious, but he's got this not dry humor, but it's kind of this subtle humor behind him too, and it's always fun talking with him. I love every single one of my co-hosts. Chuck Moore is full of energy and enthusiasm. Bill Gladman, he's always fun. He's got this unassuming humor where he comes off with the stuff that you don't expect to come out of him, and it's funny. And Frank is just joke after joke. I mean, all these guys bring something all on their own to the show. Like I mentioned earlier, Zone 4, 300 episodes later, has really increased my appreciation for comics, the comics media in general. And, it just, every time I get on the show, it re-enthusiates. See, I'm creating words. It just increases my enthusiasm. As the door unlocks and opens, and the dogs start barking. See, off script. It's a good thing. Hello. Hi. I will pause this now and start it again later. Sorry about that. Had company come over. What are you going to do? As far as if I imagine Zone 4 would be where it is today when I started it, that would be absolutely no. Like I said, when we started the show, it was basically just four friends getting together to talk about comics life and etc. And we never had aspirations beyond that to build it into a network or a family of podcasts or what have you. Those things came gradually, and as they happened, as we started doing spin-offs and started adding cast members and so on and so forth, that became kind of a goal in and of itself. It was like, okay, this is fun, let's do more of it. And it just kind of built from there. And then the vision started happening of, oh, I could see us doing this kind of show and that kind of show, and why don't we, do this and that. And, let's create a comic and all this kind of stuff. So all that stuff was never in the forefront of our minds. It was just stuff that kind of happened. And so, I could never imagine that it would be where it is today with, on a YouTube channel and have such a following that it does. I'm more than thrilled with the way that's happened, but it's definitely not something that I sought for or really, anticipated. I'm definitely happy with where Zone 4 is, but I think always I'm wanting to find ways to improve, find ways to grow it, to change it up so it's not stagnant, do something different. I like to play around and just do different things and try this. If it doesn't work, we try something else, that kind of thing. That's that's part of the evolution that I talked about earlier with Zone 4. I think we've always done that. And I think going forward, that's what we're going to do too. So, yes, I'm very happy with where it is, but I'm happier with where it could be in the future. My the thing I'm proudest of out of the 300 episodes that we've done, or 300 plus really, with when you include all the extras and so forth. Like I said, it makes me proud that so many people are entertained by what we do, that people are interested in what we have to say, that we get interaction, we get people talking on our Facebook page and emailing us and, wanting to be on the show and talk with us and get our opinions about things. They want to read what we've read. They want to work with us. I mean, that's the thing I'm most proud of, I think, is just the connections we've made with all of you. And, you're the reason why we keep doing it. I mean, I know that's kind of cliche to say, but, like I said, it started just friends wanting to talk and stuff, but as it grew and we learned that people really like to listen to us each and every week, it made us want to do it more and made us want to improve and grow and, just be better at everything. And so, yeah, you guys are the fuel that keeps the fire Zone 4 burning. And as far as the future of Zone 4 past episode 300, I don't want to say too much because we are still talking things out over the break, because we are taking our first break, 2-week break over the holidays. There will be no episode Christmas week or New Year's week, and maybe even longer than that. We are talking about plans for the show going forward. I've got a lot of ideas that I've yet to share with the rest of my cast members, so I'm not going to give too much away here. What I can say that you can expect from Zone 4 is that the next step is going to be different from the last, just like it has been at every change, every milestone that we've done. We've done something different. We've changed things up to try to keep it entertaining and try to keep it fluid and relevant and current. So that's what my goal is, to make this show current, relevant, and fun and entertaining, and give you guys the most out of your time that you spend, your precious time that you spend listening to us talk about comics, TV, movies, and so forth. So that's what you can expect from Zone 4 going forward. Will it be weekly? Will it be some other schedule? Will there be more than one show? I don't know. Stay tuned, because on the 300th episode, I will tell you when I will be making those announcements. And so, yeah, just tune in this Friday, or, probably as you're listening to this, it'll be later tonight, because I imagine this will go up early Friday morning. So listen to the 300th episode, which goes live December 19th, Friday, on zone4podcast.com, comicrelated.com, Comic Frontline, Stitcher, iTunes, comicspodcasts.com. It's going to be a big one. We got a special guest coming, and it's going to be fun. And it's a milestone, so who wants to miss that, right? And before I make another announcement about something that's happening tonight, I do want to say thank you to everyone out there from the bottom of my heart for all your support of Zone 4. The people that enjoy it, the people that challenge us, the people that disagree with us and let their opinions be known, the people that do agree with us, the people that have been touched by the show, that have been turned on to a title that they hadn't tried before, or been turned on to pulp, or to a movie, or to an indie comic, or whatever. If you've gotten anything out of Zone 4, if we've been able to entertain you at all, inform you at all, and just be friendly with you and connect with you, we appreciate it greatly from the bottom of our hearts. It's why we do it. It's why we enjoy it, because, like I said, the connection, the friendship, the family aspect of Zone 4 is what this show is all about. And, I'm just eternally grateful to all of you for your support and your listenership. So, thank you. And so, to close out this video and this special series, and I first want to thank Chris for giving us the opportunity to do this, so people on his channel can get to know us a little bit better. And If you haven't tried out Zone 4, now you have more of a reason to. Maybe you know more about us individually, and it's piqued your curiosity. There's 299 plus episodes in the archive. They're all there. You can find them on comicrelated.com and zone4podcast.com, so on and so forth. If you want to go back and find a special episode on a certain topic or whatever. But thank you, Chris, for giving us the opportunity to talk about this show that we love so much. And thank you for being a part of it and for your enthusiasm. It was cool because I met Chris because he started, actually through Lisa, but then he started listening to Zone 4 and became a fan, and eventually he became a member because he's truly one of my best friends. And speaking of Chris and our friendship, tonight, Friday, special episode. Since we are not doing a live episode of Zone 4 as we had talked about, Chris and I are doing a very special episode of Epic Rewind that will continue the celebration of the 300th episode of Zone 4. Both of us will be on it. I believe it might be the first episode of Epic Rewind that I've had the opportunity to be on. So look forward to that. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to have a blast and talk about some memories and comic topics. We're going to talk solicitations and different things because neither one of us... I was, but Chris wasn't able to be on the live show. I hadn't read my books yet, so we'll be talking about last week's comics and so forth. So it's going to be a fun time. Be sure to tune in Friday night on this YouTube channel for Epic Rewind live with yours truly. So thank you once again from the bottom of my heart. This is Brant Fowler signing off. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And as always, you are now leaving Zone 4.